you're new to pool and practicing the basics, or a more experienced player performing drills to improve your shot making and positional play, the Drill Partner is perfect for you.
Mr. Panozzo, welcome back, sir. How are you?
Is it that time of day already?
Well, it's noon. We've been actually having like a pretty good schedule here as of late. Like trying to stick around
Consistently at noon.
noonish. Yeah, I like it. A little break time for everybody. I'm pumped for this show, man. We had a show last night with Ray and Collins, just getting like more fan reaction from the Mosconi Cup, and it's been like an interesting week, like on the socials and things. And I got to see BD live on the APA pool page. I thought you did a great job, and it got some awesome interviews there, man.
Thanks. Yeah, it was a good show. A lot of Moscone talk, a lot of good interviews. Emily and Barry Hearn, and yeah, it was good. It was good stuff.
MV, was that you that had the windows open sign on day 4? So I got a text message from, or I got a Facebook message from somebody who sent me a photo of it, and so I did get to see it. So I appreciate that. I didn't know it was you though, man. So yeah, it's been fun following the Mosconi Cup. I guess depending on whose side you're on, and not short of social media banter. I saw like Jason commenting on a few posts, and including the APA one that you guys had yesterday, Mike, and he was talking about like the
Yeah.
just the standard of play, which I thought was awesome. Like in terms of from 1819 versus now and the pocket size, things like that. Before I bring in the hatchet man, I want to get your quick reaction to that.
I don't know about that. Americans can't play in tougher conditions. You learn to play on whatever conditions are out there. The standard of play has gone up since they've gone smaller packets, and that's just what it is. So Americans can play fine on that. They just have to be more consistent with what they're doing.
Okay, well, I'm gonna let you off. I don't know if I can get there, but I'm gonna let you off the hook for now, only because I don't want to get too fired up on this topic here.
Is there something about European heritage that makes you play on tougher conditions better than if you're an American? I mean, if they play in those conditions, they get better at them.
No,
They just
but
have
I
to
mean,
work
like,
hard. I think Europeans just work harder at it.
okay, that I can co-sign on for sure. But we're gonna shelve it for now. I guarantee you I want to jump back into this topic of conversation with you, buddy. So, but well, like I said, we'll shelve that for now. I'm gonna bring in Dennis Hatch. I'm excited to bring him on. I don't know if you got to see some of the social media stuff online, Mike, but part of it was seeing Dennis's like
Yeah.
throwing his hat in the mix as far as wanting to be a captain, or at least be in consideration for it. And usually when it comes to things like this, I kind of like, I'll take some of these things with a grain of salt. The one thing that I really admired and respected about his post was that it wasn't just, this pick me kind of attitude. It was he was laying out some kind of framework in terms of a plan and approach, and
Yeah.
and specific things, and that was part of what I wanted to dive into him with. So doesn't need much of an introduction, but we'll go ahead and introduce him. Dennis Hatch, welcome to the show. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
How uh how
Yeah, good to see
how
you
was
too.
the last week for you as a former player, and being just a passionate, like just the bleeding the red, white, and blue, and seeing what happened out there in the UK last week?
It was hard to watch. I pull for those guys so hard. Just as a player and a fan now, it's just, I think that, there's a lot of weight on their shoulders, and every ball they shoot, it's like life or death. So you can clearly see the pressure when they're at the table. I would like to see them being out there having some fun and more relaxed. But yeah, it was a tough week. I didn't leave my couch the whole time it was on, and I was sad. So
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's interesting you say that, because I saw a post from Rodney where he was kind of saying, you know what, I don't really watch a whole lot of pool, and I get it, because it's like, that's y'all's job to some extent, and but you watching every ball, I really find fascinating. And how tough is it though as a player when you're out there in those kind of conditions, and the crowds, wild, and everything and anything is being said to you. Like, how are you feeling physically and mentally as you're kind of going through it as a player?
it's people compare it to tournaments or like the World Championships, and you can't compare the Mosconi Cup to anything else out there. It is just pure pressure. when you're at the table, if you're thinking there's a lot of stuff going through your head. It's not just about, winning, but it's about your country, your family, all the fans in the background yelling and screaming. There's a ton of emotion. You're fired up. So the blood is running through your veins, not like a normal tournament. So you're way more gassed, way more energy, and there's a lot more stuff going through your head. So it takes a lot to focus and be able to find that calm to perform well without letting the emotions overrun you.
What do you say, Mike?
Yeah, I
I
mean,
know that's
it,
coming for
he's
me, right?
yeah. Well, it's he's been there, he's felt it, so he knows what it's like, and but it's the same for the other team as well, and so one team handled it better than the other, and I don't know if it's that maybe they're able to clear their mind better and focus on one thing and not be thinking of your family and your country and the fans and the this and the that, because the more stuff you put in your head, the less focus there is on the job at hand, right? So how do you clear that clutter from your head so that you are focused on that one thing? I guess I'm asking you, Dennis. How do you do that?
Well, there's a lot of preparation involved, and in my opinion, in this Mosconi Cup, the Europeans were definitely more prepared. This morning I went to some of Jason's posts, and I actually looked at the timeline from the time that Europe got to the Mosconi Cup in London, or they went to Europe, was November 25th, and they were already there, so they could have been there before that. They were there at least 2 weeks ahead of time, preparing for the Cup, playing 2 Mosconi Cup matches in Scotland with English players. They played a 9-ball Mosconi Cup and an English Mosconi Cup on an English table, and they won both of those. And then they flew from there on the 26th, I believe it was, to London, and they were there until the 3rd. So they were there at least 2 weeks ahead of time, if not before. They were all staying together. They were all working out together. They were all cooking together. I watched some of the videos and they were having fun. They were bonding, and that's what you need to do. It's not just about playing pool. It's not just about making balls. It's about the week or the weeks prior to the Mosconi Cup. I think Billy flew out on the 28th, if I'm not mistaken, from a previous post. So he was only there 4 days. It started on the 3rd, so 4 or 5 days ahead of time. And if you know anything about traveling, if you travel overseas, for every hour of time change, it usually takes about 1 day to get over jet lag. So if I'm not mistaken, it's a 5 or 6 hour time change difference. So if these guys got there 5 days before the Cup, they're not even over jet lag yet before they start playing. So in my opinion, I think that they need to get there earlier, especially when they go to Europe. I would say at least 7 to 10 days ahead of time. To prepare better and also do all the other stuff that Europe was doing. They're playing mini Mosconi Cups, they're working out together, they're cooking, they're eating right. There's a ton of preparation involved. That's what it's all about. You can take the 2 best players in the world, or 2 of the best players in the world, being SVB and Fedor, and they, neither one of them, I don't believe either one of them have won an MVP award. They usually don't perform that great in the Mosconi Cup. This year, Shane did great. He played amazing. But it's not just about who you pick. It's about the team, if they gel together or not, and how things around them, the preparation before they get there and all that stuff play a massive part in the Cup.
Give me some insight, Dennis, to your generation of player and how you guys prepared for the Mosconi Cup. Obviously, it was a whole different time, for professional pool back then. But what was it like, especially considering the fact that you had some pretty big personalities, yourself included, in that locker room?
Yeah, well, for me, the first time, 2009, it was, I don't know, man. It was just everything hit for me. It gelled. I went to the Cup and I just had like an outer body experience. I felt nervous, but when I got out there to play, I wasn't nervous at all. And I played some of the best pool I've ever played in my life and got lucky and fortunate, not lucky, but fortunate, and played great enough to get the MVP award. But prior to going there, we did the same thing. I practiced every day.
Mike, you still there?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Hey, are you guys still there? I can still hear you. I think my internet kind of locked up on me.
Yeah, I'm here. So
Go ahead.
before
Sorry.
the Cup in Vegas in 2009, when we won, we flew out to Vegas. We got there a week ahead of time, 7 days ahead of time, and we all went to Fat Boy's house. And we stayed there for 7 days. We roomed together. We played together. We traveled together. We did everything together, and we gelled together, and we won. I mean, I felt like we were going to win the Cup before we even started. Years after that, preparation was the same, but it wasn't as the camaraderie wasn't there. So I think that there was a little lacking on preparation and camaraderie again in the years after that. But it all boils down to the preparation, right? They were there 2 weeks ahead of time. They were practicing together. They played English pool and regular 9-ball, and they traveled from Scotland over to London, and all they did was practice together as a team. And the Americans flew out there 5 days ahead of time, probably took the first day to get some rest, and then on the 29th, started to practice together. So they only practiced, 3 or 4 days before the Cup? I don't think that's going to cut it.
What do you say, Mike?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's obviously more important when you're the underdog team to be better prepared than the team you're facing. I mean, that to me would be the number one thing. That's the most obvious, is you're not going to take down a heavy favorite if you're less prepared than they are. Whatever they're doing, you got to do more. Yeah, however they're preparing, you got to do more. However, whoever they're playing is warm up, you got to get a tougher team. Whatever it is, you have to know what they're doing, measure what you're doing against that to see if you've got a chance. And if you're not putting in the work that they're putting in, and you're already the underdog, probably not going to go too well.
Right. And I'm not saying that I'm the answer to the Mosconi Cup. What I'm saying is I just would like to be given one shot. I have 2 people behind me that are willing to do anything to help this team. Dave Bartosiak from Classic Billiards and Christopher C. Wilson in Parkersburg, West Virginia at the League Room. They have both told me they will do whatever it takes to help Team USA. Chris told me today that he said, if you have the team come, he said, we can have boot camps. He said, I'll get a Rasan or Rasan, however you say it, I'm sorry. At my pool room, I'll have the pocket shimmed. He said, I'll have a crowd come in. We'll be screaming and yelling. Dave Bartosiak.
He's a class act.
Huh?
He's a class act.
Yeah, and then Dave said the same thing. He said, I'll do whatever you need. He said, I'll have the place filled, and we'll have yelling and screaming fans. We'll have a shim table. And again, Europe went to David Alcade and FSR played at Classic Billiards in Florida on the 15th before the Mosconi Cup. They played a 3-on-3 team, right? So those guys played 3 mini Mosconi Cups before the Cup actually started. And Jason Shaw was there also. He was a spectator. But these guys are they're 3 Mosconi Cups before the Mosconi Cup. That's what we should be doing. After that, then they flew to Scotland. They left Scotland on the 25th, but they were together for at least 2 weeks, and I think that's what we need to do. All I'm saying is that if you keep doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result, you guys know what that is, right? The definition of insanity.
Yeah.
Something needs to change. Obviously, Johan is more than qualified. When he had us out there in Vegas for 10 days when we played that Mosconi Cup, I mean, I felt like I was more prepared than I probably ever have been in my life. It was amazing, but again, it's not just about a coaching thing. I think that these guys respect me. I'm friends with them. We laugh and joke around. We text each other on the holidays, Happy Thanksgiving, Merry Christmas. So it's just, I feel like that I can benefit and help these guys with a spiritual side, a mental side, a practicing side, even working out. I think that they need to work out. They don't have to work out rigorously and crazy. Just getting on the treadmill for a couple of weeks before you get there, just to sweat and. But we need to be training nonstop for at least 2 weeks before the Cup, right? We can go to Parkersburg, West Virginia. We can have a Mosconi Cup, a mini boot camp. You have guys that aren't on the team or that are waiting to be part of the team, that if they don't make the team, you can take these guys and have a mini Mosconi Cup, which I have people willing to put up money for $10,000. You fly these guys in, have a mini Mosconi Cup. Justin Hall wasn't on the team. I'd use him. Justin Bergman, Oscar Dominguez, Payne McBride, Sam Henderson, Shane Wolford. Love these guys, right? Cash Keaton, Chris Reinhold. There's 10 guys right there you could use for 2 Mosconi Cups, mini Mosconi Cups, to help the team that's actually playing in the Cup practice. Then have someone put up some money so these guys can play each other races to 5 all day for $500 a set. That's quick, short action, and there's pressure on you. It's a race to 5. And this is what I think it takes to get there and to be able to win the Cup is the preparation. have a Rasan put in with tight pockets, just like the table, brand new cloth, heated lights, yelling and screaming crowd in the background, whether it be live or on the radio. I think that there needs to be more preparation, and that's just the moral of the story. Just preparation is what matters. There's some breathing techniques they can do that I've learned, and it helps you a lot when you're out there if you breathe. And I didn't see a lot of them doing that. I saw a lot of them kind of breathing in and kind of holding their breath. I did see Tyler taking deep breaths, and that kid, if anybody thinks he shouldn't be on the team, they're crazy, because that kid has more love for the game and prepares more than anybody. His drive for the game is just unbelievable. But again, I think we need to prepare.
You mentioned being good buddies with some of them, Dennis, but do you think they would respect you enough to be able to separate that in the moment if you had to, lay the hatchet down, so to speak? You know what I mean? Lay the hammer down on them to get them in line. Because listen, the truth of the matter is they're not renowned for their work ethic or their discipline individually. Not all of them anyway. You know what I mean? So how would you do you think you'd be able to put that buddy attitude to the side and be like, hey, listen, this is the expectation. This is what I'm looking from you guys.
Well, anybody that knows me knows that I don't cut corners, right? I don't hold back. I don't pull any punches. And just the respect, yes, they have the respect. Billy posted the other day, or commented on my post, that he agreed with everything that I said, except for playing on the Do-Ya 8-ball table with the rounded pockets. And the reason for playing on that table is because you can't miss even a little bit. If you catch the rounded pocket going in, it's
staying up.
Accuracy has to be perfect. And they're not going to do that the day before they play in the cup. That would be probably a couple of days, or 2 or 3 days before the cup, or 4 or 5 days before the cup, just to prepare, or accuracy wise. But Billy agreed with me. Sky, when we were out in Vegas doing the boot camps and stuff, him and I had a conversation about staying up late and being tired at the at the boot camps and stuff like that, because I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't gamble, I don't go out, so I'm in bed by 9 o'clock. You know what I mean? So I'm ready to go.
Well, you're just boring, Dennis.
I might be a little boring now, but yeah, I do think that they would respect as you said, bring the hatchet down. I think they would respect it, not only as an older person, I'm 55 now, but as a friend and mentor. I think these guys look up to me, not just on the table, but off the table also.
Well, you've been putting the queue together over the last 6+ months. I've been seeing you play on some ultimate pool stuff. Do you ever think you got any gas left in the tank to give it another swing?
Absolutely. I mean, I feel like I'm playing just as good, if not better, than I have, in my career. I mean, I feel like I can, when I go do exhibitions with Rodney and Earl, I beat those guys, and I feel like I've played Shane, many times. I've beaten him. I've played Jason Shaw a ton of times. It's usually real close, hill. But to me, just, it's a little different when you're in battle at 54. Sure. I'll be 55 in January, but your nerves aren't quite as good. Your eyes aren't quite as good. But again, I feel like I can still play and compete with anyone. And if I had the chance, without having to travel a ton, like overseas and stuff, I would play in all the events in the States if I could make the team. I would love to play again. And if I can't play, I'd love to be a captain. I'll do, if I would just want to be a part of pool again and part of the Mosconi Cup, to be honest.
Look, if they can bring Philip Rivers back for another go around with the Colts, you know what I mean? Then anything's possible. And you're not taking any shots from linebackers, that's for sure.
If he can play football at 44, I can play pool at 54, right?
Yeah, for sure.
We'll see if he plays football.
I don't think it'll be long.
Yeah, first time he gets hit, he's going to say, "No, this is why I left."
Yeah, exactly. Especially after such a long time away. Talk to me about the press conference for a minute, Dennis, and just the way that Jason will kind of, I don't want to say attack the Americans, but he knows what buttons to push, and he knows it's low-hanging fruit. He knows he has a stronger team behind him. How tough is it, or how important is it, I should say, for the Americans to kind of stay away from that bait trap that Jason goes and lays, trying to get in their heads every year before the event kicks off?
You broke up a little bit at the beginning. What did you say?
No, saying how important is it, like, for before the event, in terms of the press conference, for the players to kind of get away from buying into the Jason Shaw show, trying to get in their heads mentally, trying to stir them up, trying to get them emotional, try to get them to react, and kind of, like, I don't want to say turn on each other, but certainly cause just stir the pot a little bit.
No, what he did was Obviously there's banter and they say it's all in fun, but I think he crossed the line a little bit with I saw the text message, Shane wanted to stake, Lucas against Billy. And that's going a little too far. And again, if you have a captain sitting there, like I'm going to stop that, nip that in the bud and be like, hey, let's leave that for another time. Let's just focus on the press conference and playing pool and, and tell the guys, hey, no matter what Jason says, don't respond to it. Don't feed into it. Just focus on, what the task is at hand here. Let's keep it real.
Where do you think, I mean, besides the obvious in terms of leaving a lot of 9 balls up, where do you feel like there's, like, how did the Americans fall short, and what do they have to do outside of just preparation to, give it a better go around for next year?
Well, obviously they missed balls, but starting out good is a must. If you start out 2 or 3-0, right, the weight is on Shane's shoulders, on Fader's shoulders, because every time they come to the table, everybody wants and expects them to win. And if they don't, it's like, oh God, what are we going to do now? So obviously a quick start is imperative. The lag is huge.
How many lags did we even win? Because I know it wasn't a whole lot.
It wasn't many. I can tell you that. I didn't keep track, but it wasn't many. And a couple of matches that came down to Hill, they got to break, and we ended up losing. But the lag is huge, and they do outlag us. And I think this year they outbroke us. But again, there's so many things you can work on, right? The lag, the break, mental focus, consistency. I think that they were just over hitting everything. Sky missed that 9-ball in the corner. I don't hit that with low ball and hit it hard. I'm just rolling that in with follow and just hitting it smooth and soft. Tyler had an off-cut back cut on the 9. I think that typically when Tyler shoots, you see him walk around a little bit and look at the angle from the front. He didn't do any of that. He was about 4 or 5 steps back from the table, and then he walked up and got down to shoot the 9 and shot it and missed it. And I think that just when they play Scotch doubles together, I think there's a little too much talking going on. I think, listen, we're all pros, right, and champions. I don't need you to ask me where I want to be. Just get up there and take your time and make the ball and shoot and play position for the next ball. Because if you don't get me where I want to be, I can still shoot the ball. I can still make the ball. I'm a pro. This is what I do, right? So stop. I wouldn't talk as much as they talk. In my opinion, I think there's a little too much talking going on in the Scotch and in the singles. I don't think the captain should have to play and captain and try to pick the lineup and focus on all this other stuff and play at the same time. I think it's too much.
It's a big ask. What do you got, Mike?
I think the thing that always sticks in my mind, you talk about preparation and being together 2 weeks and practicing hard and having them play other Mosconi style teams, whatever. That's all great in theory. But to me, one of the differences I always seen is when they do that preparation, how do you get them to approach it like there's something at stake? Because I've always kind of gotten this impression that the American players look at opportunities like that and the practice and all that as kind of, part of the process, and I just kind of got to go through it. But you just don't.
Oh, through the motions, you mean, Mike?
Yeah, you don't ever feel like they're completely buying in body and soul to practice sessions like I really picture the Europeans do. And everybody talks about the Europeans more sport. The Americans don't, and there's probably some truth to that, but I kind of understand some of the differences too. But when I'll say those guys do like practice, like if they win or lose really means something. And how do you get these guys to do that in a practice match a week ahead of a Mosconi Cup?
Well, I see some people making comments about me talking about what I would do with the team and how I'm giving ideas to Team Europe. Team Europe knows what to do. They know how to win. So anything I say here isn't going to change.
Well, they got a they got a proven formula,
Yeah,
exactly. And they do have they are very rich as far as the talent pool. Where the Americans, you just have to figure out a certain way, and you're not recreating the wheel here, But there has to be something logical to make the approach different. I feel like.
Agreed. And here's my opinion on this, right? So instead of picking a team, you take the top 2 players on the points and the next 3 guys, and hopefully at some point that they do 4 guys. Because every other sport, there's a sub, right? In baseball, there's a pinch hitter. In football, there's players that come in and out every play, right? Soccer, every sport, baseball, pinch hitters, pinch runners. Like if a guy's dogging it and he's not playing good, and he's missed 4 or 5 nines, and I'm not picking out Tyler. I'm just because I've done it myself. But maybe you want to sit him, right? Take him
Yeah.
out of the equation for a day and bring someone else in and see how they play. And now, if this guy can handle the pressure and he gets out that day and he plays good, you leave him in. If he doesn't, then you bring in the other guy, right? So you have a sixth man. Jason Shaw brought it up, and we've been talking about this for years. But I would like to have 2 guys picked for the Mosconi Cup, 2 top 2 in points, and the other 3 guys have to play for it. You have to earn your spot to get on the team, not just by playing in tournaments, right? Because we all know how tournaments go. You wake up one day, you might play great, and you might do great in a tournament, and you wake up the next tournament, and you don't feel good, or your arm hurts, or you're not breaking good, or how about this? You just get a bad draw, and you draw Shane and Fader your first 2 matches, and you go 2 and out. So just because you do good in prior tournaments doesn't mean that you deserve to be on the team. Yes, it makes a difference, but I would like to see these guys have to earn their way onto the team. So you take whoever's left after the first 2, right? Take the next 5, top 7 points, right? So you take the first 2, there's 5 players left. They have to play off. They have to have some form of playoff to make the team. And those 3 guys that win the playoff are now on the team. They have to play for it. And then they have to listen to the coach. When I go in there, I'm not going to be friendly. I'm not going to be your friend. When we go out to eat after we practice, we can be friends. But when we're in the pool room and we're at the table, I'm the boss. You're going to do what I ask you to do. And if you don't do that and you don't listen to my rules, staying out all night, not going to happen. If you do that, guess what? You're not on the team. Catch you drinking, guess what? You're off the team. There's going to be rules. And they're going to be firm rules because that's what we did when we won. Nick Varner had us at an 11 o'clock curfew. Right? If he caught us drinking, we were off the team, or, not off the team necessarily because we didn't have a replacement, but there were consequences for your actions. And that's what they have to have now. And these guys have to have fear that they're not just going to get picked and, I'm on the team and it's over. No, you have to earn your way on the team. You're picked, but there's 5 of you now. Now, out of those 5, 3 players get picked out of your performance against each other, not just in prior tournaments.
I don't mind the idea as far as having a sub. I agree with you. Like, it makes sense, especially if you're going to make the comparison towards other sports. But I'm going to play devil's advocate here for a minute, Dennis, because you were a player and you got paid for going out there. Would you be willing to give up a slice of your pie to have a 6th guy out there compared to what you were guaranteed to make as being the 5 locked in guys that, earn their way out there?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I would give up a piece of the pie to have a 6th guy out there. I think that it would benefit everyone, right? Even Shane or Fedor, if they feel like there's too much pressure on them and they don't feel like they want to play, right? Let someone else in. Let someone else come in and try to play. Or Tyler, let's say Tyler would say, hey, guys, I'm dogging it. Just sit me, man. Let me sit down and bring someone else in. It just gives you an opportunity to not just have the same 5 guys playing every day. You can switch out one guy. Right. And if he doesn't perform well either, then you bring in the other guy. Right. But every sport has a sub. And I think pool should too in the Mosconi Cup. Absolutely, I would be willing to give up a piece of the pie. Yes.
Look, it's historical. And you mentioned this before as far as Shane and Federer not performing. Now, listen, I know you got a lot of balls, Dennis, but I don't know if I'd want to be the guy. I don't know if I'd want to be the guy to say, to tap, Federer on the shoulder and be like, hey, son, I'm pulling you, because he was 0 for 3 in his, I think, what was it, Mike, that I saw on your stats? Is that right? 3 losses. Yeah. So that would be a tough call and be a lot of pressure for a captain to go and make, especially if it's a premier player, which those guys historically have not performed.
Listen, what do you have to lose, right? He's not performing well. He missed a 4-ball that was like, and I'm not picking on anyone. This is reality. I've done it. We've all done it. We dog it, right? That's sports. But he missed a 4-ball, was like this far from the pocket. The guy's the best player in the world, in my opinion. I have nothing.
Yeah, I would have never guessed he missed that ball in a million.
Yeah. At this point, right, and then he misses one straight in. I forgot what ball it was, but at this point, I'm not gonna go to him and say, hey, I'm sitting you down. I'm gonna say, hey, how do you feel? Do you want to, would you like to take a little break? Would you like to let whoever, Justin Bergman, come in and take your spot for today or for the next match? And if he says, yeah, that's a good idea, then we do it. I'm not just going to bench someone because they're missing balls. I'm going to have a talk with them and ask them how they feel. Because let me tell you something. Sometimes when you get in a rut like that, you can't come out of it. And what's going on with your own body and the way you feel. So if you have the opportunity to be a man and say, listen, I can't do this right now. Yes, please sit me down.
But there's pride, though, at the same time, though. No, Dennis? I mean, like, nobody wants to be the guy to be, pulled. Is that fair? Because I don't like – they've worked their ass off the entire year. And again, I'm with you. Like, I think it's a great idea, by the way, just for the record. But like, it would be tough whether you're on the player side or the captain side. I feel like to kind of make that spot. I would love it for the drama side of it for sure. But yeah, I think that would be a slippery slope there for sure.
Mike, what are you laughing at?
No, it is. It's a tough call on a lot of fronts too. Are you really going to be? What will you be able to do? Could you switch a guy from match to match? Would it have to be before a day starts? Who's going to pay for the sixth player? This is not only the prize money, things like that. I mean, I don't think Matchroom's going to say, yeah, we'll just go out and have a 20% increase on our budget on both sides just to add a sixth player. So you've got issues like that, and you do have the dilemma. I don't think any player is going to say, yeah, take me out. I mean, you see coaches going out to the mound to talk to the pitchers, and if they ever leave it up to the pitchers are saying, keep me in. Yeah, the coach is going to have to yank them out. And that's
look at Scherzer, Mike, or I mean, you can name any big time pitcher. Does not want to get put in the game.
So most managers go out there and they don't give them the choice. They just put their hand out and take the ball. So that becomes a little bit of an issue too.
It does, but my response to that is that if you really want to win and you want the team to win and you want to win for your country, you do what it takes to win. And if me sitting myself down and having enough common sense to put my pride to the side and say, hey, listen, man, my arm's shaking. I'm dogging it. I don't want to go back out there, right? Or however you want to word it. And let someone else go in and take your place, whether it be for the day, for the match, whatever Emily would allow. And as far as me being paid, I would give up half of whatever I would get paid to have a sixth man. For me, it's not about the money. I want to help this team win. I want to help these guys win. I want to be part of the history when we raise that trophy. It's not about the money. And it's not about the money for players. Everybody keeps saying, oh, they get 20,000, doesn't matter. They don't care if they win or lose. That's not true at all. We care more than anything in the world, and that's part of the problem. There's too much. I think we care too much.
Guys, do you think they got the same sense of pride that your generation of player had, Dennis?
I can't answer that question. I don't know what's in their head or what's in their mind. I mean, they're American. They're playing for USA. I would hope that they do. My generation might be a little bit.
Let me ask you, what did it mean to you?
Oh, it was everything. I cried. I mean, it was just a life-changing experience.
I was there. He did cry.
Did he really?
I was there. He cried.
I did. I cried.
Oh yeah,
I love that.
It was amazing. It was nothing that I've ever experienced before in my life. And I've traveled quite a bit, even though I don't like to fly. I went to Russia, and I've been to London, I've been here, and I've been there. And it was just, I was in my home, or in my country. It was in Vegas. People were yelling and screaming. I was yelling and screaming. It was just, I cried. That's all I have to say. That's how much it meant to me when we won. It was just, man, I get goosebumps just talking about it.
I'm getting goosebumps now. You're getting me fired up, man.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it's and then these guys saying, oh, this is what they do. They're pros. They should be able to. Guess what? Jason Shaw missed balls. I watched it. I was watching. I mean, he missed balls. So did Filler. They made mistakes. We just made more. If they don't miss the nines that they missed, when Sky had that 6 with the bridge, he doesn't miss that. I think Billy missed a 9 the first day, not to go hill, but to make it 3-2 instead of 4-1 in the 5-on-5.
Sure.
Tyler missed the 2 9s. Federer missed a 4 ball. He never misses that ball. So, it's not what you think it is as a fan. I want you guys to know this, whoever's watching, that when you're out there, it's different. Your whole body is shaking. It's not just like, oh, it's routine. Oh, we do this for a living. This is easy. There's 5,000 or however many people are there screaming and yelling at you when you're shooting, and you're, it's a tough environment. Pool, when we go to a tournament, it's a quiet environment. When you shoot, there's no one yelling and screaming at you. So that's what I'm talking about, having the music or the fans in the background yelling and screaming. There's so much preparation involved. And when I played my first event, I was shaking. My whole body was shaking, but I managed to get through it because I was breathing. And I lost one match, but I ended up being the MVP. But it's not just playing in a tournament and being, oh, we've done this for our whole lives. We know what we're doing. We're pool players. It's not like that. Put yourself in a different environment. It's not the same. It's not.
at one point, Dennis, whenever you were playing back then, you had a couple of young bucks that were coming in, that were up and comers, but you had already been there for a little bit, and so how hard was it as a top player and having seniority and experience to kind of give that younger player maybe respect or appreciation or just having faith in them and going out there while they're out there in the battlefield, so to speak?
You just have to have faith in each other. You know what I mean? Whether one of us dogs it or not, or we all dog it, you go out there and you support each other. You try to help each other win. You do whatever you need to help the other person. We all are. I don't care what you've won or what you haven't won. We're all pros. We're all champions, and we all do this for a living. And when it comes down to the Mosconi Cup and you guys get together, you have to support each other. You have to have each other's back. When we go to other tournaments, yeah, we're the enemy. We play against each other, but the long story short is that we've all won big tournaments. We all deserve respect, and we all should have each other's back, no matter whether we're a rookie or we're a BCA Hall of Famer like Rodney Morris. It doesn't matter. You support each other. That's what matters.
What do you got, Mike? You've been real quiet over there.
Yeah, no, it's all been good stuff. I mean, honestly, between you guys, I'm not a fan of a 6-man. I don't think you need that. I think that the key is to have the 5 guys prepared best that they can. It's you don't get that many opportunities to go out there and play anyway, so it's hard to know whether you're really in a great rhythm or not. I mean, you just don't get that many chances. So I like it as it is. I just think getting them prepared is better. It's interesting what you've talked about, and I think Johan even did this before too, is you have, your 2 or 3 automatic picks and then have 4 or 5 guys kind of almost play off for the thing. How would you envision that going that would make it more telling than picking who performed best in tournaments?
Great question, Mike.
Well, I would have them play each other again. I would have them, and I wouldn't. I'm going to base everything off of a Mosconi Cup atmosphere, right? So I'm going to have these guys, and this is not set in stone. This is just what I came up with and thought about since the Cup, right? So if there's, let's say, 3 players that are in the running, say I have them written down here. I'll pick 3 off the list: Justin Bergman, Sam Ryan Henderson, and Shane Wolford. Say those are the 3 players. Or let me pick Payne McBride and Cash Keaton. So we have 5. These guys all have to play each other a round robin event. Let's say 5 times each, right? Just an example. And they have to play 5 races to 5. See how they do. Whoever wins not necessarily makes the team, but Johan had us do drills. At the end of a certain amount of time after the drills, he cut the team down, right? Because the people that didn't perform well got cut. It's just like any other sport, right?
Sure. Yep.
So I would have multiple ways to pick these guys. Who does the drills the best? Who plays the best? Who beats who in a round robin atmosphere in a race to 5? And it's not just that. It's about how they act, their attitude, if they're supporting the team, or if they're not playing well or performing well when it comes to the drills and the playing. It's not just about playing. It's your attitude, the way you act when you're playing to make the team, what you're doing when you're not practicing, right? All the above. I want to do everything. And as far as my salary goes, I don't even know what the coach gets paid. And my wife might kill me for this, but I don't want to be paid, right? I want to win. So if it takes me to be captain, you don't have to pay me, right? If I win, then you can pay me. How's that sound? That's how much I want to be captain. Don't pay me unless I win.
That's pretty strong, Dennis.
Yeah, really, I'm serious. Real talk. Pay me if I win. If I lose, don't pay me. Just pay my expenses to get to the Cup and all the other stuff where I have to get the team prepared. But I don't want money. I'm not doing this for money. And when I say that, look at this. I don't know if you guys can see this, but my hair is standing straight up. I want to win. I want USA to be yelling and screaming and cheering and saying they did it. That's what I want.
And I know you're not traveling full time as far as being a player at this point, Dennis, but are you keeping, a finger on the pulse as far as, how players are doing throughout the year, given the tournaments and how worldwide that pool is at this point?
Yeah, I watch all the big tournaments. I don't watch, tournaments that aren't streamed, but I watch the U.S. Open, the International Open, the Mosconi Cup, the one in Qatar, and I do watch the players, and I still talk to some of them. So, I've been going to the Ultimate Pool events, so I'm seeing Sky and some other players at the events, and we talk.
Yeah.
And I'm willing to travel. I'm willing to do whatever it takes. The reason I don't travel now is because I'm a little bit older, right? And I just don't want to fly all over the world because I have a
Sure.
wife and I love my home life. But I would do whatever it takes to be a Mosconi Cup captain. I would go to all the events. I would fly overseas. I would do whatever it takes to make this team win. And again, I don't want to be paid. If I win, pay me. Then I deserve to be paid. But if I don't win, don't pay me. I'm fine with that.
Mike, you got anything else? It's hard to argue with this man right here. I'll tell you that.
No, it's all, you know, I love the approach and obviously the passion and the enthusiasm, but he's always had that, so it doesn't come as a surprise at all. So it's just, you know, it's that, you know, who can mix, you know, who's going to be able to mix the magic sauce to make these guys, you know, run a wall for 2 straight weeks before they even get to the cup, you know, and treat it like it's life or death, and take that approach. To me, that's the toughest part of getting the Americans prepared, because they don't have that same mentality. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I mean, they've always treated pool differently. They've always treated pool like, you know, I'm not going to spend these 3 weeks getting ready for that one tournament. I could have made X amount of money playing this guy and that guy and playing this tournament and that tournament. And you know, they've always, you know, Europeans approach it as a sport. Well, Americans approach it as a business. You know, this is about livelihood, is about making money, and that's the most important thing. So, you know, some of the Europeans, you know, practice, you know, night and day for months and months and months, and I don't know how they survive, you know, based on tournament payouts. So, and the cost of going to these tournaments. So it's hard to fault one side or the other. I just know the mentality of the Europeans is more geared towards that quick, short, high pressure event. I mean, they're geared towards long events too. Believe me, they won every title of the world. But when you put something like Mosconi Cup together, I think that's the makeup that is more suited to that event, and they're more prepared for it. And I just don't know how you get Americans at this point in their life and careers to all of a sudden completely change around. It's happened a couple times, obviously, in 18 and 19, but you know, it's that, you know, it's a little, it's not a huge thing, but it's so important to have that, to have this means everything to me mentality 3 weeks before an event.
I know you mentioned breathing techniques amongst other things, and Lonnie brings up a great question in the chat, you know, and without giving away like your secret sauce, you know, how vital is it for the Americans to have some kind of like mental coach or approach or just preparation where they don't get too high or too low when it comes to being out there? Because, you know, it goes up and down.
Well, so I don't know if you guys know this or not, but and I'm not bragging, I'm just telling you what I've done with my life. So I've been sober for 10 years. And I went to Florida and I trained to become a recovery coach. I'm a certified recovery coach for alcohol and addiction. Not only did I do that, but I've also taken a class and graduated for spirituality and ethics. So I know that I can help these guys. Breathing techniques, spirituality, right? Ethics, all of it. It's not just about playing pool. And like Mike said, Penozo, they need to really think about this as, you know, a job, and not like, oh, I could have played the bar table tournament 2 weeks ago and, you know, and won this 2 weeks before. And I love Ultimate Pool. Don't get me wrong. I think it's one of the best things that's ever happened to pool. But Sky, Tyler, and Shane played in the bar table tournament 2 weeks before the Mosconi Cup. I mean, if I'm the captain of the team, I'm not letting them do that. I would ask them not to go to that event, and if they would just skip that one event, because it's only 2 weeks before the cup. Now, did it make a difference? Probably not. Who knows? But the moral of the story is you want them to be focused on the cup 2 weeks before the cup, right? And then so you need someone in the practice room that is going to be there and that's not going to let them. Obviously, you have to have some fun, right? But you want someone who's going to be a boss, not a friend. You need someone in there telling them, this is what it takes to win. And if you guys want to win, this is what you need to do. And you need to be serious about it. And if you don't want to be serious about it, then you should leave, right? Because this is not the place for you. And I'm not saying pool, I'm saying the Mosconi Cup. When Europe goes to the cup, they go there with a win mentality, win or go home mentality. They practice, they eat right, they work out, they prepare, they're cold plunging. I mean, these guys are doing everything, you know, it's unbelievable. And that's what we should be doing. our guys. If I saw a picture yesterday, I looked on or this morning. Someone showed a picture of Europe's living facilities and USA. And Europe,
It was terrible, man. It was fucking terrible.
I don't know who did that. And I'm not
don't even
saying
get
it's
me tilted.
wrong, but Jason's eating chicken and they're cutting up vegetables. And the USA had 3 boxes of pizza and some garlic bread sitting on the table, and it makes a difference. It really does.
Look, I'm a believer when it comes to diet, especially at this point in my life. It factors into so many different aspects of your well-being. I cannot go and echo that any more than you. Dennis, I know you got a lot going on. I know you travel around and do exhibitions amongst other things, and you also got a great team behind you. You want to show some love to some of your sponsors before we get you on out of here?
Absolutely. Classic Billiards, Dave Bartosiak in Lauderhill, Florida. Christopher C. Wilson at the League Room in Parkersburg, West Virginia. Jacoby Custom Cues. They gave me a beautiful, the sister cue to the cue of the year. Unbelievable cue. My wife, thank you. I love you. What else? I'm probably missing some people, and I apologize, but when they put you on the spot, you can't remember them all. But lastly, I just want to reach out and shout out to Barry Hearn and Emily. What they're doing for pool is amazing. And I don't take anything away from them or the Mosconi Cup. I just think that as far as Team USA is concerned, something needs to change. And I'll get people to pay for it. I'm not asking them for anything. I just want to be able to control the team. I want to be able to take them to Florida or take them to Parkersburg. And these guys will do anything that I need them to do financially, physically, for tables, whatever it needs. And again, I don't want to be paid. Everybody hear that? I'm not doing this for the money. I want to win the trophy. If you haven't seen me in the Mosconi Cup, maybe you should watch one of my videos. I bleed red, white, and blue. I love this, right? I want to be part of this. I want to succeed. So when I go to the Mosconi Cup to be the captain, I'm not going to be joking and laughing and having fun. And if somebody says something, I'm going to stand up for my team. I'm going to stand up at the cup. I'm going to stand up to Jason. I'm going to do what needs to be done, not in a physical or violent way, just as the team captain, be like, hey, listen, we're not.
Oh, come on.
No, come on.
We could do.
Come on. Hey, show them how
I want to. That's what I'm afraid of. I want to see you give him one of these.
Yeah.
Classic,
there you go.
Classic Dennis Hatch pump.
Yeah, they'll still get the pump, but it'll be a political pump. It'll be a good pump.
There you go. Hey, listen, I appreciate your time. I'd love to have you on again and kind of further talk about this topic in the near future, Dennis, if you can.
I'd love to. That would be great.
Much appreciation and much respect. Can't help but get fired up. Oh, what's up, Dennis?
I want to say, can I shout out to 2 people?
Sure, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
2 local fans of mine and good friends, Travis and Amber Davis. I know you guys are watching.
Amen.
Great.
There you go.
Cool.
Dennis Hatch.
Hey, I would love to be on again if I could. That would be great.
Hey, listen, you got after getting me fired up like that, you got an open door. You just say the word and I'll make time.
Thank you. I
Guaranteed,
appreciate
man.
you.
For sure, my man.
Yeah.
Appreciate you, Dennis.
All right, guys. Mike, have a good night.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay.
Good seeing you again.
Mike, I tell you what, listen, we had a show last night with Ray and we talked about pride and whatever amongst other things. Man, Mike, that got me fired up, man. Like when he says I bleed red, white, and blue, like I believe him. I'm
Listen,
serious, man.
I loved when he initially made his post. And I sent him a little message. Said, loved the comments, loved your approach to it, loved the fact that you had this kind of thing planned out. I have no doubt that he that he would be a qualified person to be in that position. The doubts I've always had is, getting the total buy-in from the Team USA players to be that prepared to go in there physically and mentally. That to me is always and do I think Dennis could do that? I think he probably could. We talked about Johan. Do I think Johan could do that? He's shown he can. So,
Sure.
These are the type of guys with that type of mentality and that type of approach that would have the best chance of getting out of Team USA players what they need to get out of them. I am 100% a player coach. If Team Europe wants to keep it, let Jason be player coach until his arm falls off. I don't really care.
Yeah,
but
if it works for them,
Team USA, they're just not wired that way. So I think that there's no doubt that we need a non-playing captain. And I look at, obviously, Johan Johan's a proven product. Dennis is not, but I think that, of the people that I've talked about and considered for this type position, I certainly think he's, right at the top.
And Dennis says he'd be open to working with, alongside Johan in some kind of vice captaincy type environment, I'd imagine. So that's always good to hear. Look, you can't fake genuine enthusiasm,
Yeah,
and it's one thing, to like say all the right things, but I really respected his responses too. I respected the fact that he was like, listen, I'm, what I say is going to go, and we're going to have strict rules and guidelines, and sometimes you have to go, and I'm paraphrasing here, but be the bad guy, so to speak, which I think that discipline is part of the things that guys need. Now, at the same hand, Mike, I'm with you. I think it's going to be hard to get some of these guys to buy in, especially depending on what point they are in their respective careers, but if you're going to be genuine about the process, and it's good to say all these things now, right? But you have to go out there and like actually do those things and make tough calls and all these things at the same time, So, let me know in the chat what you think.
Would be one of the coaches' things too. Is like, listen, I know that you're one of the top 3 players in the U.S., but you're just not buying in. We don't need you. We need another guy. And listen, I was there in 2018 when Johan and Shane were like, "Nah, this isn't going to work," and Shane wasn't on the team.
Yeah, it caused a lot of drama for those whatever it was, a month or whatever.
There was a lot of drama. I was in New Orleans when Johan and Shane sat down at a table, and it ended up getting worked out. So, you have to be, if you're in a coach's situation, you have to be willing to make that tough call, live by it. So do I think Dennis can do that type of thing? Yeah, I absolutely think he can.
There was a lot of points to go and dissect when it comes to Dennis's response, but listen, I thought he had a real logical approach and had some things up his sleeves that like they make sense. Now, whether or not you can go and get a better 11-3 out of it, I don't know, and you're not going to know until they go out there and perform, come December. But the thing is that I think that everything that he's saying sounds like more work than what they were doing prior to. Now, I wasn't living with them 24 hours beforehand, but
I don't think it takes much more work than they were doing. So,
yeah. Let me ask you this, Mike, because that 6-man was kind of an interesting conversation. Do you think that's something that could benefit Team USA?
No, I think it benefits Europe more than it does USA, although I couldn't see ever thinking that they need the 6th guy. Europe is, has shown to dog it enough to the point where they need to pull him out. So, no, I don't see it. I don't like it.
But do you think that there could be some, like, do you think that there could be some like exceptions to the rules as far as the event? I mean, it's their show at the end of the day. You mentioned like having a formal captain versus having, if Europe wanted to keep the same player captain, I think that's good. But like at the same time, like if Team USA said, hey, listen, we want to have a 6th guy, do you think that that's something that would be fine? Like as far as like from the player side of things, Mike, do you think that they would be okay with
that? Do I think Matchroom, if US brought a 6-man that own dime? No, I think if I'm Team Europe, we're not letting you do that. So, Johan Chua.
There you go.
We're getting big on. Listen to us talk about how to get, the Americans to play the Europeans, and he's over there just yawning like, okay, send them all over to Asia.
Well, the Filipinos just get out of bed and whoop the Europeans' ass. You know what I mean? Like you can tie one hand behind their back and they're probably still robbing the Europeans. Let's just be real.
I wouldn't see Team Europe in a 6-man. It just opens cans of worms. It's like, okay, how are you going to let them play? What are the rules going to be for when they could come in, when they couldn't come in, when I have to be told ahead of time? Listen. If you do a process like he was talking about, where you have a playoff with 5 or 6 players for the last 2 spots, like that, and you do all that preparation that he's talking about, you better feel comfortable that you're showing up to London or Florida with the 5 best guys ready to play. I don't think you want to even think that you need a 6th guy at that point. So, I'm not. I don't need a 6-man thing.
Look, I get what you're saying, and sure, it makes sense.
It opens up more questions than answers.
Look, any little bit to get this damn event more exciting, I'm with, Mike. So if that includes bringing in a 6-man while that guy is just sitting there, while somebody is just shitting the bed over and over again. Hey, listen, I'm in. Is he gonna,
Well,
is he
yeah,
gonna
then
tap him
yeah,
in?
fine. I'm
Is he
fine.
gonna pick him?
If that 6-man is there yelling every time someone dogs and goes, "Look at he's dogging to put me in, coach. That guy sucks."
Well, nobody's
About his
saying
own
that. Who's gonna
teammate.
have that guy part of the team, right? You're not bringing him on board.
If we're to make it exciting, let's make it exciting.
I think it just
And like I said, people keep chiming in. The 6-man helps Europe a lot more than it does us. I don't think that they would need it, but yeah, if your 6-man's Albin or FSR, Kachi or whatever, and our 6th is not, then I don't think we've come out ahead on that at all.
No, I just love having the option because it does make sense in terms of other sports. Listen, we've seen premier A1 quarterbacks after throwing 3 or 4 interceptions, get benched for the second half or whatever. You know what I mean? And so I think having that practical approach in terms of having at least an option. Now, sure, it may open up a can of worms that maybe you don't want to have, or something like elephant in the room where it's just like, well, there's Federer over there sitting his ass down while, and nobody wants to be the guy to go down while a star like that is sitting down. Surely, but
yeah, again, I just don't see it being a benefit. I don't see it being, someone who's thrown 3 interceptions, they've probably thrown, 12, 15, 20 passes, whatever. You look at the Mosconi Cup, Jason Shaw played 3 matches. Okay. You don't get that many opportunities to get out there, period. And it's a race to 5. And if you're doubles, you're only taking every other. I don't think you really have anybody out there long enough to say we got to pull him and send in a sub. Yeah, I don't know. It just doesn't. Like I said, I just think that it makes things more confusing and brings up more questions than it answers. I don't see the point of it.
Look, let's see. Johan says, in my opinion, just bring back the one on the spot and break anywhere normal size pockets. Let me ask you that, Mike, because Jason made a good point. I've said this many times that back then, and by the way, Double J said in 19 it was tight, but like, do you think it has to regress in that aspect, given the fact that fundamentally that's what the event was? It was one on the spot. It wasn't these WNT rules that we're living in this modern day. So do you think that if you open up the pockets back to 4.5 and had the one on the spot, that it would balance things out a little bit? Because surely these Americans ain't gonna be missing them balls like they did this past week. I'll tell you that.
Why would you make the game easier so that you can make it more competitive?
They need all the help they can get, Mike. Grows. Look at the score, 11-3.
That's their problem. But you don't try to grow the sport. You know who did that? Bowling did that. Bowling made everything as easy as it could for guys to throw 9,300 games a year or whatever, and end up killing leagues and killing. It doesn't. Don't make it easier.
Look.
Make it easier. Tell the guys to get better. Make the players better if you want to make the sport better.
Get that old school attitude in there. Look, I'm with you there. I think it's good in terms of a conversation to be had, but I'm with you there because. And by the way, like I love, since we've had this new 4-inch pocket, all these things, I just love the drama that it's brought. And there was plenty of balls last week that even despite the fact they went in, like they were filming right down the barrel of the gun. I thought that they were going wide and they still fell. So like it adds that level of intrigue into the shot by shot and not taking anything for granted. Dennis mentioned that whatever it was 4 or 5 ball that Federer missed. If you're playing on standard pockets in it, you're never going to be sweating that ball, but that's what that tight equipment brings. It brings all these different layers of excitement, and there can nothing can be taken for granted.
If this is what they're playing on, if this is a Matchroom event and this is what they're playing on in the World 9-Ball Tour, which they're trying to build up, you don't go away from that and make it easier for this marquee event. I mean, you play with what got you there.
Talk to me a minute, Mike, about what Emily said on your show. If you guys missed it, go check out Billiards Digest Facebook page, because she had a pretty good little segment in there where she seemed noticeably concerned about the event as a whole. Very different. And you guys shared that same opinion, you and Jason, on the show about how y'all's reaction. But she looked like very different than like what you saw in front of the mic every day. Like, oh, it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. Like she looked like
Yeah,
she was worried about the Mosconi Cup.
yeah, it was a very kind of almost somber type. And it could have been that, listen, after 4 days she was done. So she could have been drained at that point. It was after the tournament was over.
It's been a long year too, to
But
be
she
fair.
but she was very frank about, listen, I don't even know what the answer is, but we got to do something. And it just gave me a sense that they were going back to the home office and they were going to sit down and everything in the scrap heap and start over again. What are the main things that are missing here and how do we fix them? She addressed the issue of, because Barry Hearn during his thing talked about making it North America possibly and whatever. And Barry has been known to just kind of like go off the cuff. But he'll just like run off with an idea, and you can see Emily and Jake and everybody in Matchroom in the background shaking their heads like, no, don't go there, buddy. But she did bring up the whole thing about a Torsten or a Jesus Atencio, and we've talked about that before, and which one we like and which one we don't as far as an option. But the thing is, she agreed that the best way is to make help the American players get better. And if that's by having more tournaments in the U.S., more to play for in the U.S., a better, helping with the growth of the junior programs in the U.S., things like that, it all goes towards long term. All these other things that people keep talking about are these short-term fixes. Let's make the pockets. Let's get a guy from Venezuela on our team. Let's let Canadians on the team. They're these kind of short, desperate fixes that, to me, won't hold up over the long run. So, it's about rebuilding the competitiveness of the team that keeps getting its ass kicked.
And that's been the case, and I think that's where like it's a very difficult balance to be had, and I don't envy their position as far as having to solve that riddle because, they want the short term fix, but at the same time, it is such a long term issue that has just been growing and growing and growing, and now it's just painfully obvious at this point. You can't look the other way on it. You can't slap a band-aid on where the American team is at. Listen, I don't know where this is going to end up shaking up by the time it's all said and done. Obviously, Johan threw his name in the mix. Scott's mentioned, having interest in it. We've seen the Double J be out there before for a few years, and now Dennis. But I tell you what, like, and I've talked to a lot of these guys, Mike, as have you. The fire and enthusiasm that I remember watching that guy Dennis Hatch play with is what I felt when I'm hearing him talk about it. And I'm not saying he's got the perfect recipe, but I love the fact that that he is emotional about it. And for the record, the guy needs to get paid. I know he said I'll do it for free, but pay that man some money, by the way, whoever it is. But it's like that kind of fight in spirit is a great starter, Mike. And now let's just go, everyone get some gasoline together and throw it on there. And I firmly believe, like, if they can buy in, to your point before, Mike, if you can get the players to buy in,
you can get us, no problem. That's not the issue. Can you get the, he's the chef. Can you get the groceries to get fired up? So, and then mix it all together and come out with a great team. So, could he do that? Yeah, it's good to see these guys really want it that badly. And I think one of the big things, whether it comes from Matchroom, whether it comes from the U.S. industry, whether it comes from friends that Dennis have, is putting together a plan that's at least a 6-month plan that has a budget attached to it and funding to get it done. Whether it's getting the guys together to play, whether it's getting prize money together so they're playing for something, so that they can win something and lose something. That's, there's got to be kind of almost a program in place to get things, on track properly, right? So that's a big piece of great ideas, but it's going to take some funding to do it. How important is it to the billiard industry? How important is it to other people, who love this happen?
Yeah, I think like if it's okay to say like you need help, and to have some real honest conversations, whether you're looking in the mirror or you're having a conversation amongst your friends and your teammates and all these things, but I think like you have to be able to really just break it all the way down and then rebuild, because where the foundation is at currently is too far cracked in order to kind of just patch it all together at this point. I want to mention that comment that Sky said in there. He says, what is a coach going to tell top pros? And I think that's part of like the culture that me and Ray and also having a conversation about yesterday, and kind of comes to your point as far as getting guys to buy in. That statement right there to me kind of epitomizes that. Like if they're playing on a week in, week out basis, you got Shane who's made 2 finals this year. You've had Federer that was in the finals of the U.S. Open along with the World Championship this year. Like, how are you going to get those type of guys to buy in from? And I'm just going to use Dennis as an example, from a guy like Dennis who hasn't been on the circuit. And so, how do you get him to buy in
Here's
and
the thing.
it really genuinely resonate?
What Sky's talking about is what's a coach going to tell us when we play every week, right? Now, we've always said this. No coach is going to come in and all of a sudden tell Shane how to tweak his game to play better. You guys all know how to play. They all know how to make balls. They know how to finish high in tournaments. They all know how to beat the best players in the world. No one's ever said that is what needed to be addressed. What needed to be addressed is the preparation and that razor's edge thing of being ready the second they walk out to that thing. Now, I'm sure Sky would say we were ready this year. We worked hard. We practiced hard. I think everybody believes that when they say that, but everyone else looks and sees, well, the proof is in the pudding. We watched it. There was a difference like this between the two teams. And everybody say, well, if it wasn't for this ball and that ball, you know what? That's what the difference between the teams is that they didn't miss those balls that you missed. And so, and we know you can make those balls. So how do we do better prepared to make that ball when that ball comes up again that you missed last time? And it's not adjusting your stroke or telling you not to use low.
That might be part of it too, Mike. I mean,
it might be part too, but for the most part, it's that belief, mental preparation, all that kind of stuff that a coach can get you to get out of yourself that you may not have even known was there, right? So that's the type of things that I think a really qualified coach captain can do that the playing captain can't.
Yeah, I think if it at least gives you optimism. We've talked about this plenty of times from a fan who loves sweating the Mosconi Cup and who just loves sports. You want it to be more competitive. And while I would still bet on the Europeans, they're not stealing, in race to 5. I'm with you there. But consistently year in and year out, especially the last, 6-7 years, the Americans just haven't shown up in the way that we would hope, And so that's where we are at this point. I think adding something else into that recipe, Mike, is more important now more than ever, but fundamentally, I think there are pieces in place where you can put some heat on those Europeans' asses, and I want to see some heat on them, because I think they play way different when there's some heat on them,
These guys that we have, great pool players. They're all great pool players, and of course they can put heat on the Europeans. And when you put heat on the Europeans,
it's a way different ball game, Mike.
Completely different ball game. So what you can't do is go out there and get run over 4-0 on the first day, and they're just got their feet up on the autumn the rest of the night. So.
Yeah, 4-0 was a little tough to overcome. And I'll end on this, but so I remember when we were in Bally's years ago talking with Laylee, and I've told this on the show many times before, but it was like after the day, I should say, not after the event, after day one, and they were like about to go out to dinner, and I saw them, in the casino or whatever, and I was just kind of talking with Alex and how's he doing? By the way, I reached out to him to see if he'd come on the show. But I asked him, I was like, well, how do you feel? Because I think they were down like 4-1 or something, or 3-1, something like that, And, I was like, you guys nervous? What's up? And he just straight up, with the most cold-blooded reaction ever, was like, if you were down 4-1 going to 11, would you be nervous? And in my head, I was like, well, I would, but I understand what he was saying. You know what I mean? And so, but I don't have that same faith with the Americans. Does that make sense, Mike? And
Yeah,
so
yeah, no, uh,
with the
European
European,
team being down, yeah,
yes,
they
yeah,
wouldn't have loved being down 4-0, but
sure,
would they have thought that it was insurmountable? Not even close. And I think the Americans went back after the first thing and said, "This isn't insurmountable. If we win the next 2 days, we go pretty tight." So there's a lot of ways. There's a lot of ways to look at these things, whether you're up or down, that will help you rationalize getting. But they have the talent. So but for some teams, if you're the underdog, you're in a worse spot, no doubt.
yeah, yeah. I want to make it great again. I want to see that event become what like that was part of the reason why I fell in love with pool, Mike. They did a really good job on showcasing rivalry and just putting the sport on a completely different stage than anybody can ever do. And Matchroom still does, the best job at it by far. And you can have all the glitz and glam and these pseudo celebrities walking by and athletes or whatever while still having a competitive match. We want to see competitiveness back in it, and as of right now, it's just not. So, and now we got more shows coming up. Much appreciation to Dennis for coming on the show. Mike, are you free tomorrow?
You always ask me like 6 minutes before you're ready to go on.
Well, yeah. I mean, I want to put you on the spot.
I'm around tomorrow. Why? What do you want to talk about?
Well, I wanted to bring Telfer on, give me that Europe, and I know how much you love European fans, and kind of get his perspective. He had a couple of good posts I saw on the Matchroom forum over the week, and I feel like Jim's real honest to the event. Plus, he's just a diehard Mosconi lover. I mean, he's been there for forever, it seems like, and so been there way more than I have, way more than you have, if I remember right as well, Mike. So, and you got to love guys like that who just love the sport. So if you're available, I'd love to have you on. I'm not sure on the time just yet, but I will let you know, Mike, for sure.
Yeah, well, drop me a note when you're ready.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Thanks for hanging out with us. Again, much appreciation to Dennis. You guys go enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see all you guys and gals real soon. Later, everybody.